StraighTallDay.com.
Tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative that is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself. It's going to make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is shit happens, success does not. Before we get into that, I'll remind everybody I send out a text message every day, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. It's called the Daily Motivation. I send out one every week, also called the Monday Motivation. You can get those messages by being a part of my text community. It's free of charge to join. All you got to do is text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And as long as those messages are coming out, you'll be receiving them straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That's the only place I do any coaching, only place I work with anyone directly. If you would like to be coached by me on mindset, strategy, systems, accountability, maybe something is in between one of those or a subtopic of one of those, only place to do so is inside of Work on Your Game University. If you would like me to be the person who can help hold you accountable, help take a look at your situations, and let's figure out how we can get from where you are to where you want to be, just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and we take it from there. Again, that link is down below in the description. Secondly, So now let's get into the episode. Thirdly, shit happens, success does not. So I give a hat tip to Dan Kennedy for this idea. And I looked at this title straight from an article of his that I read. But in my defense, the concepts in this episode are not brand new for me. So even though I did take the title straight from him, I'll thank him for the title idea. I did not take the concept straight from him because I have talked about these things many times from different angles in the past. So I'm justified to use his title because I'm going to reinforce ideas that I have shared in the past that some of you may have, many of you probably have not heard because you may not have been listening to the show that long. And even if you have heard them, you need to hear them again because human beings are hard-headed and we need to hear certain things more than once before it actually gets through to us. And even things that have gotten through, we need to be reminded of it because we get inundated with a lot of different messages every single day. And if all it took for you to absorb and apply information was to hear it one time, well, then a lot of our lives would be a lot different than they are right now, wouldn't it? And that applies to everyone. We got to hear things more than once in order to actually put them to use. So let's get to it. Point number one, today's topic, once again, shit happens, success does not. Because of the law of entropy, which is a fundamental law, anything which states anything left alone to its own devices will get into a higher and higher level of chaos. And that's what the definition says, but I'm going to put it into more layman's terms. Anything left alone gets worse. It disintegrates and the situation devolves without some type of conscious and intentional human intervention. Anything left alone, unless it is tended to by someone who is conscious and intentional about not letting it get worse, is going to get worse. That's what the law of entropy states. Again, I'm putting that in my words. So anything that you leave be, you just let something be as it is, and you don't do anything to it. You don't try to alter or adjust the situation. You just kind of leave it as it is and just let it be. Anything that you do that with, or you don't do that with, better yet, it does not get better, it gets worse. This is the law of the universe, that anything that's left by itself will get worse. It will move into a higher level of chaos, and we know what chaos means. Chaos and disorder. I believe the scientific definition calls it disorder, but we'll call it chaos, we'll call it disintegration, we'll call it getting worse. That's what happens when you leave something by itself. And again, this applies to everything. If you don't, for example, tend to your garden, what happens? Well, your flowers die, your grass turns brown, and you get weeds. Isn't that what happens when you just leave the garden and don't do anything? You don't do anything to take care of it, it gets worse, right? If you don't exercise, what happens to your body? You become fat, out of shape, and unhealthy. Is this true? All right, some of you know this from personal experience. Anything that you are not vigilant about will move into a worse position if there's no one watching over it and being responsible for it. You just get worse if you don't do anything on purpose to improve or move forward. Everybody understands this? Again, this is the law of the universe. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. This is just how it works. You build or destroy, and keep in mind there's no neutral in the universe. So you have to be vigilant about anything that you want to be better at. So any of you wants to make or have or keep more money in your life, you need to get conscious and intentional about the money that you are making, the money that you do have, and the money that you are keeping, or that you're not making, don't have, and are not keeping. You got to get conscious and intentional about it. In other words, you just got to put more, you got to pay more attention to it. Anything you pay attention to, we tend to get better at that thing simply because it's getting our attention. And the human brain is one of the most powerful tools known to man. So when you put the human brain on a task, it tends to improve the results of that task. And if you don't put your brain on something, then that situation will usually devolve and get worse. Why? Because the law of entropy says anything that is not paid attention to, intended to consciously and intentionally, will over time go into a higher level of disorder, also known as chaos, or in layman's terms, it just gets worse. All right, let's just call it that. The atrophy of the situation accelerates. Since we can't tend to, here's the point though, since we can't tend to everything at the same time all the time, this is how bad things can somehow just occur in our life. Not because we just took our attention away from something and then it just slowly got worse, but sometimes things just happen simply because we can't pay attention to everything at all times. So we can't play cop to every possible permutation of what could happen in all of our lives. Because there are way too many things that we don't control. 99% of life we don't have control over. So you can't pay attention to everything all at the same time. That's impossible. You can only pay attention to one thing at a time, which means inevitably something's going to go in a way that you don't want it to go. That's just how it is. Sometimes this is just raw bad luck. Sometimes just things just happen randomly and it's not your fault, not anybody's fault, it just happened. Sometimes it's just the natural laws happening because the natural laws happen. You're paying so much attention to your career that you don't pay as much attention to your relationship. Or you're paying so much attention to your relationship that you start lacking a little bit in paying attention to your career. And sometimes things just get worse because, again, it's not getting your conscientiousness and your intentionality. It's inevitable, and you can't really stop this from happening. This is why in life, I told you that there are no perfect scenarios. There are only trade-offs. This applies to every life. This applies to every person. There is no one here who can have a perfect scenario in your life. You have to decide. I told you about this in episode number 2174. Where in life are you okay with that trade-off? But anything that you want to do at an extreme level, folks, there's going to be an extreme trade-off. Anything, if you want to do everything in moderation, then your outcomes are going to be in moderation. And if you want to achieve an extreme outcome in any aspect of your life, there is an extreme that counterbalance that comes with that. Again, this is a law of the universe. There is no way around this. So if you think about, I was listening to Tim Ferriss interview. He has a long form podcast where he does like these hour plus 2 hour, 3 hour, sometimes interviews with his guests, similar to how Joe Rogan does, but different style of conversation. I would suggest you listen to both shows because they both go pretty deep with interesting people. Tim Ferriss was talking to Morgan Housel, and Morgan Housel is an author of a book. I think he has his new book. I forget the name of it. I think it's called The Same Thing, something like that. Something about the word same. I forget the name of it. It didn't come out yet as of this recording. It'll be out by the time you all hear this. But he has another book that he put out called The Soul of Money. I believe that's what it's called. Let me look it up. I think it's called The Soul of Money. And this book I have read and I did like. And if you have not read that book, I would suggest that you do. Psychology of Money. Psychology of Money is Morgan Housel's first book. And then he has another one coming out, which probably will be out by the time you hear this. It's called Same as Ever. Let me see if it has a release date. Release date is November 7th. So yes, by the time you all hear this, this book will already be out. It's not out as of this recording, but Morgan Housel was talking about, because he does studies of, no, what is it? What can I describe he studies? I can't even describe exactly what he does. You can look him up and figure it out for yourself what he studies. But the whole point is, one of the things that he said was he was listening to an interview of Elon Musk. And I forget who Musk was being interviewed by, but Elon Musk lamented the fact that because he had been on because he had such strong ambition and strong determination and drive to be financially successful and build his businesses and all the things that Elon Musk has done, that it severely hampered his relationship with his children. Because this was his trade-off. His trade-off was, in order to become this great entrepreneur, what's another word we can call him, mogul or whatever else you want to call this guy, a visionary guy, Elon Musk, that he had to trade off his relationships, specifically with his kids, because he didn't have the time to give to them because he was giving it all to his business. I'm not saying that this is right or wrong. I'm just saying that you have to decide what trade-offs you want to make. You want to be an incredible entrepreneur yourself, or that something's got to give. You got to trade something for that. You want to be an incredible athlete, you got to trade something. You want to have an incredible home life? Well, you're probably not going to be as successful as you could be in your business if you were putting more of your resources into the business. This is just how it works. Amazon used to have I don't know if they actually have this in their company documentation, but Jeff Bezos is famous for saying this, that if you are looking for work-life balance, this is not the place for you to, if you don't come work in management or leadership at this company. If you want to be in management and leadership at Amazon, do not expect work-life balance. You want to go to your kid's soccer game at 7 o'clock? That ain't happening if you work here. So you need to make a choice. The whole point is there's a trade-off. Everybody understand? Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, shit happens, success does not. So let's talk about the success part. So we got clear on the shit part. Success has to be conscious and intentional, as I've already told you. You hear me use these two words often, conscious and intentional. If you're a regular listener of the show, you hear me use it all the time. And you heard me use it all the time. If you're new, you hear me use it a lot more in the future. The whole point is we have to be thinking about success and doing things on purpose in order for it to happen. If you want to be successful, you have to be thinking about the success that you want, and you have to be on your purpose of making that success happen, pushing, driving, trying for it. And you have to be thinking about it. Success does not happen by itself. Anytime you become successful and success just happens on its own and you didn't even do anything, you just have some success thing occur, consider yourself lucky. But do not bet on or wait for that thing to happen again by random occurrence as it happened before. So you have to be discerning enough to identify random occurrences, random luck. And Nicholas Nassim Taleb calls this the black swan event. When a random lucky event, and random luck can be negative or positive, bad or good luck. When a random luck event happens, you need to be able to discern and identify it as what it is, a random lucky event, and do not base the rest of your life or career or decisions on that one random lucky event, because as a random lucky event, you can't really plan on luck. You can't plan on a random lucky event. For example, here in the United States, they have the Transportation Safety Administration, also known as the TSA. Any of you gets on a plane, you know about the TSA because you have to go through the TSA security checkpoints, whether you have TSA pre-check, whether you have nothing, you got to take your shoes off, whether you have clear like I do, and pre-check, but you still got to go through security. It's a lot faster and smoother, but you still got to go through it. The TSA was created as a response to a random black swan event of the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. Because of those attacks, which happened over 20 years ago, we still have the TSA to this day, which I believe causes much more consternation and delay and pain, so to speak, for citizens than it does prevent an event like 9/11 from ever happening again. That's just my opinion on it. But the whole point of me bringing that up is that it was a black swan event. And based on that black swan event, we've made conscious and intentional, basically never to be undone decisions like the TSA, the existence of the TSA period. Many of you have had random black swan events happen in your life. Again, bad luck or good luck. And now you're basing a lot of your decisions on that one time that good luck happened to you, or the one time that bad luck happened to you when it was just luck. It was just random. And you shouldn't be making your decisions that way. You're making your decisions based off of an inaccurate formulation. It's an inaccurate discernment of what happened and why it happened. Because the things that you're doing, or you're preventing something that's probably not going to happen again. And if it does, it would be random and you wouldn't be able to prevent it anyway. Or something that happened and that was just fortuitous luck. And no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to just make that luck happen again, even if you keep doing the same stuff on a more superstitious level, so to speak. It's like a basketball player has a great game and they have a certain pair of shorts or a certain pair of socks or something like that. So now they want to do that every game as if that's the reason why they had a good game. That's not the reason you had a good game. But again, people get superstitious in this way in doing exactly that. So often when people have a good luck black swan event, they want to keep doing the same stuff that they think led to it, but it didn't actually. We call that superstition. And when someone does this on the negative side of things, something bad happened, and they don't do a certain thing anymore, they won't go a certain place anymore, or they just consider something to be negative and they won't touch it again because of that one random black swan event that is associated with it. We usually call that trauma. They're traumatized. But either way, it's a random event. Neither one of them was caused by anything that you specifically did. Sometimes it's random stuff just happens in life. But success does not randomly happen. All right, you have to be on purpose and conscious for success. If you ever run into success again without trying, it's luck. Part of my episode about, let me pull this episode up because this is an episode where it was episode number 2524. Your success is not God's plan. And the reason I did that episode is because I talk to a lot of people between DMs, comments, texts, emails, live conversations, Zoom calls, etc. And it was becoming somewhat alarming to me how often people were putting the burden on God for their success and for their decision making and what exactly they were going to do. These are people who say, well, before I make a decision, I need to pray on it, as if God's going to decide for you what to do. And listen, I respect the fact that you want to pray on things, but I believe, in my experience, when people say that they want to pray on something, they aren't really needing to pray on it to make a decision. They're using prayer and their religion or their alleged religion as a shield and excuse for delay of decision making. In my experience, that's usually what people are doing. They're just using it as an excuse to delay making a decision or delay following through on their decision. So I got to pray on it, which usually when they say that, people aren't going to question it. So it's a great shield because nobody's going to question it. Same way that people say when someone shares their opinion, they say it's my truth. Because see, if you just said it's my opinion, well, your opinion is open to questioning, but your truth is not open to questioning. So it's just a verbal sleight of hand that people use as a defense mechanism and a tool for delay of decision making. And this slowness is what costs a lot of people success. So when someone says, I need to pray on something, or this will happen if it's God's plan, or if it's God's will, that's bullshit. It's not God's plan or God's will for you to launch a podcast. It's not God's plan or God's will for you to make $10,000 a month or $100,000 a month or $1 million in a year or whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's not part of God's plan. God's plan was to put you here and give you free will to make decisions and do whatever it is you're going to do. So you turn around and saying, well, I'll achieve this outcome or I will make this decision if it's God's plan. All right, that's a slap in God's face because you're telling God, well, I'm going to throw it back to you to make the decision for me. God's not going to make the decision for you. God's not going to do anything. And there you are, still sitting in the same spot with the same ideas and doing the same nothing you were doing before you put it on God. It ain't on God. It's on you. God is not responsible for your success. Therefore, you cannot just let success happen. Now, God nor any other entity, all right, moral or not. Success is made to happen, folks, by consciousness and intention. Success is made to happen via consciousness and intention. Once you raise your level of consciousness and intention to a high enough level, then success can seem to happen effortlessly. Maybe some of you have experienced this. Maybe you have seen it in others where it just seemed like they were succeeding and not even trying. But your consciousness and intention create a vibration that is attracting that success. And is also not attracting, but moving you to take actions that will lead to that success. So it's not just the vibration itself that makes you successful, because you can be vibrating while sitting on your couch doing nothing. But the vibration leads to activity as well. That's why we have the be, do, have principle. Vibration is part of your being that leads to the doing. You got to do something, then you get the outcome. So it's not literally happening without effort, even though sometimes in life you may feel as if success is happening without you trying. There is effort. It's just different than the effort that most people use. It's a different type of effort. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is shit happens, success does not happen. Number 3. Have you ever heard someone say, quote, it takes the same amount of energy or the same amount of time to succeed as it takes to fail? Ever heard somebody say something like that? Close quote. It takes the same energy or time to succeed as it takes to fail. If you ever heard that before, let me enlighten you to something. That is not true. I'll tell you how it's not true. I'll prove it to you very easily. You can do absolutely nothing. Just do nothing in life and you will fail. All right, that will happen. If you do nothing at all, you can fail. But you can't do nothing and succeed. So when someone says it takes the same amount of energy and time to succeed as it takes to fail, that is not necessarily true, because I just told you. Because doing nothing, that's guaranteed to lead to failure because you're not doing anything. But there is no way that doing nothing leads to success. It's impossible. So if it takes the same amount, then that means it's the same amount. That means any amount, it could lead to success or it could lead to failure, but it's not true. Doing nothing does not lead to success ever. What is true, however, is that you could either succeed or fail with lots of effort, depending on your decisions and strategy. So at a high level of effort and time, then yes, you could succeed or you could fail. Depends on what you do with that effort and time. But at the low level of very low energy and very low effort, very low time investment, it is impossible for you to be successful. That will never happen. So, since at the high level of effort and time investment, you could go either way, success or failure. How many of you feel like you're not anywhere close to where you want to be, despite the fact that you work pretty hard and you put a lot of time into yourself? I would guess many people feel this way. This is why having the right mindset and the right strategy matters so much. It's not just about effort. So our mindset and strategy are the first two pieces of the 4-part framework of what we do at Work on Your Game University. You need to be in the right frame of mind and stay in that frame of mind and have the proper game plan for achieving your desired outcome. You gotta have all the pieces. You gotta get in the right frame of mind, stay there consistently, and not be thrown off by life's random occurrences. And you gotta have a solid game plan in order for you to achieve the outcome you wish to achieve. Either of these is missing, all the effort in the world cannot make up for what these missing pieces do not provide. You don't have the right mindset. I don't care how great your game plan is, you're not going to achieve the outcome. It's not going to happen. You won't be able to sustain it, even if you are able to taste a temporary success. And if you have all the right mindset, but the improper game plan, you could become very frustrated because you're like, I got the right mindset. I know I want to be successful, but things are not working. It's because something's missing in your strategy. So you can't have a hole in your game for either of these pieces. That said, let's recap today's class, which is shit happens, success does not. And point number one, because of the law of entropy, states anything left to its own devices disintegrates, gets worse, atrophies without conscious human involvement. Anything that is left to be simply doesn't get better, it just gets worse. And in life, you are either getting better, you are getting worse, you are building or destroying. There is no neutral in the universe. And since we can't tend to everything at all times, sometimes bad luck just happens, sometimes good luck just happens. You can't stop it or start it. Number two, success has to be conscious and intentional. I use these words often because you got to be thinking about what you're doing and you have to have a strong intention for what you're doing in order for you to achieve an outcome on purpose, because all success happens on purpose. On purpose is related to intention. You got to be intentional about the things that you're doing, and that's how they're brought to fruition. And keep in mind, God is not responsible for your success. God does not care whether you're successful or not. Why? Well, look at it. Look at what you believe about God. Does God look after the poor and the unwell the same way he looks after the rich and the healthy? Yes, it does. So that's proof right there that whether you are successful or not isn't really on God's radar. God is impartial to whether you are successful or you are a failure in a general sense, meaning if you end up a failure, God's still going to watch over you. And if you end up a success, God's still going to watch over you. Neither one of those is part of God's plan. God's plan, he got bigger fish to fry than whether or not you become successful, whether or not you finish writing your book, whether or not you sign up for somebody's challenge. All right, that's the decision you got to make. Success is made to happen by consciousness and intention. When you raise your level of consciousness and intention high enough, then success can appear to be happening effortlessly. It's not effortless. It's just different effort than most people use. Number three, you ever hear someone say it takes the same energy or time to succeed as it takes to fail? That's not true. Because at the lowest levels of energy and time investment, you cannot succeed. You can fail, but you can't succeed. Now, at the highest level, you can go either way. And this is why you need to have the right mentors, coaches, insights, and brains around you so that you don't make the wrong decisions. All that said, text me, see you on my text community. My number is 305-384-6894. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. It's the only place to be coached by me. Work with me directly. That link is down below, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all